Well, it's clear that the global economy is in a very serious slowdown, which has a significant impact on the global automotive industry. There are about 80 million units of capacity in the world, and our forecast is for about 57.5 million units of sales this year, which means that there's 40% excess capacity, which has a significant impact, both in terms of the ability for South African manufacturers to export product to those markets, as well as competitive entries targeting our markets down here. Clearly, the impact of the global economy is starting to be felt on the South African automobile industry, too. If you've tracked the reductions, we're in our 27th month of decline in this industry in South Africa, but it accelerated around May of last year and then really picked up steam earlier this year. So if you were to track the automotive industry in South Africa hitting a peak at an AMSA reported level of around 647,000 units in 2006, dropping to 614 in 2007, 489,000 last year. Our forecast for this year is about 350,000 vehicles. Now, that doesn't count the non-reporters. There's another 30,000 or so, but that's a dramatic slowdown in terms of the industry, which has implications for all of our operations here.
Does the U.S. operation have any bearing on local operation?
So General Motors Corporation is a large holding company that's comprised of a number of operating units. GM South Africa is one of those operating units, as is GM East Africa, Egypt, Nigeria. Same as Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. operations. So underneath this holding company are about 140 operating units. So the extent to which the U.S. operation is going through a restructuring for all of the various reasons that I'm sure you know and have been widely publicized, it would affect our reputation more than anything else. But it is simply another operating unit, a big one, but it has no tangible impact on our operations here. If you look at our product portfolio, all of our vehicles are designed, engineered, sourced from places like Korea, Thailand, Japan, Brazil, Australia, Europe, and manufactured down here. The only impact it would have on GM South Africa is that we get some material for the Hummer assembly operations and some Cadillacs. Recognizing the situation in the U.S., we've already bought ahead on material for Hummer should there be any kind of an interruption in availability from the U.S. And I don't anticipate that, frankly, because even if the corporation were unable to negotiate the restructuring that's been agreed with the administration task force outside of U.S. bankruptcy support, even if it operated inside for 60 to 90 days, they would continue to build and export and generate revenue and cash in order to be able to continue operations during that time period. U.S. bankruptcy rules under Chapter 11 are designed to preserve value, not to liquidate value. It provides protection under court administration from creditors while you go through a restructuring process to enable you to resume operations in a healthier state. So there's no reason at all to expect any kind of an impact on our GM South African operations. We're not getting any cash from the U.S. Clearly, if the U.S. provides any kind of bridge financing for our U.S. operations, none of that money can flow to us. We don't need it. We generate our own cash. We do our own investments. We provide our own warranty and our own services. So it should have no impact whatsoever on us in GM South Africa.
Are you looking at any intentions locally?
We have, if you were to go back to the last 18 months, we've benchmarked ourselves against the best in the world because we know as there are shifts in MIDP and now going to an APDP, the intent is to assure that our operations down here are globally competitive because duty levels are falling, and as I indicated, there's lots of competition out there with lots of capacity. So we determined about 18 months ago that we needed to get more productive, and we've gone through a voluntary separation plan that's reduced our headcount by about 1,000, which resulted in improvement in productivity by about 25%. Now, that would have enabled us to operate at around a 400,000 unit industry mark without any further reductions. But we have said for the last 6 months that if we're no longer assembling Hummer, that would have implications for several hundred additional employees. It's not determined yet whether or not that's going to be taken from us or not. There is a strategic review of the brand, and there are interested parties. Depending on who would acquire the brand, would then have to work with them to determine where they wanted the vehicle manufactured, because they would be the new owners. But presuming that they may wish to rationalize that with the U.S. Capacity, then that would mean that we would need to reduce another 300 to 350. And then we've recently lowered our industry forecast from 400,000 units in South Africa to 365, and then as recent as last week to 350,000 units. That also has implications for another 300 or 350 people. Until this point, all of it's been voluntary, no retrenchments. There are a couple hundred temporary employees in our operation. There are another couple hundred that have expressed interest in a voluntary separation. So those would leave, again, without retrenchments. The issue at this point is we've been working with the union to see if there isn't some other kind of a flexible structure that would enable us to preserve the remainder of the jobs without having to retrench them. We haven't been able to come to that agreement to this point. So our expectation is that there probably will be about 200 or so that will have to retrench. But they'll be the first employees that we've had to retrench so far. About 180 markets around the world, all over Africa, all over Asia, all over North America and Europe, so all over South America. So in my area of responsibility, there are about 40 that we sell into. So it's a very global company.
Are there any planned closures?
Well, there certainly are planned closures of plants capacity in North America. No doubt about that. That's widely reported on. There have been a number, though I'm sure there'll be more as a result of restructuring. There are no plant closures in my area. There will be, we believe, we hope, some rationalization between Kempston Road and Struendale, because Struendale is our more modern facility, and that's where our major capacity is. Our capacity bottleneck is a paint shop at 90,000 units a year, so more than enough capacity to handle our product portfolio. We need to do it in an orderly process. Should we be able to do that, then while we retain our administrative offices at Kempston Road, we would hope to monetize the manufacturing facility, because it would be of no further use for us as we centralize our capacity over in Struendale.